About a month ago, I uploaded a video talking about some games I personally would love to see ported to VR. That video did pretty well, and because of that, I got quite a few comments mentioning their own personal picks. So let's do it again! Can you tell I'm running out of ideas? Instead of just talking about games that I personally would love to see brought to VR, I've decided to read out some of your comments and see what games you'd love to see in virtual reality. But first, we gotta thank our channel members! NBA Exuracell, woohoo! JDAP Edits, woohoo! Real Sync VR FN, woohoo! I'm Special 69, woohoo! Yeah, woo, woo. You know The Last of Us. Everyone knows The Last of Us. One of the most critically acclaimed games in video game history, and a personal favourite franchise of mine. The Last of Us was absolutely groundbreaking when it released in 2013. Okay, well, the gameplay, at least in the first game, is pretty generic, but the story is absolutely fantastic. Now, this may just be me, but I don't personally want to see the first and second games get their quadrillionth re-release, which is why I don't really want to see the first two games brought over to VR. Officially, at least. Modders, feel free to go nuts. I personally would really enjoy a spin-off. Something akin to the Left Behind DLC for the first game, just maybe 6 to 8 hours long. A VR spin-off could certainly take place during that 4-year gap between the first game and the second game. Or it could have a whole new protagonist, a different story that takes place within the Last of Us universe. Anything just to experience sneaking around clickers in VR. That shit would be horrifying. They could also implement factions into this VR game. Pretty please, Naughty Dog struck gold with the first Last of Us factions only to cancel its sequel. We deserve factions too, no matter what form it takes. Slightly off topic, but I do want to give a quick mention to Speclizer, who is creating this fantastic looking mod for The Last of Us Part 2, bringing multiplayer to the game. It genuinely looks fantastic, and I'm really excited to see this release one day. After the cancellation of Factions 2, I've been praying for a multiplayer game with Last of Us 2 gameplay, so this is something I'm really excited for. I recently played through Infamous 1 for the first time on my completely retailed, totally unmodified PS3, using my totally legit, definitely not an ISO file from Vim's Lair, physical copy of the game. And I enjoyed it. Solid 7.5 out of 10. And while I was looking for suggestions in the comments, I saw some people mention Infamous and I thought, shit, they're cooking. Infamous in VR, at least in my opinion, could be an amazing game. We do already have a few good superpower focused VR games like Project Demigod, but they usually don't have stories. They're more so just sandbox games. But a full-fledged Infamous game featuring the karma system could genuinely work really well. I can't think of many VR games where your choices matter. The only one that comes to my head is The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, because you can literally kill like 99% of the characters you come across. We need more VR games with telltale choices. Okay, not too much like a Telltale game because then it would never come out. Also, just using powers to glide around the city in VR would be really cool. Unfortunately, Infamous is a dead IP, so there's a very low chance of even getting a new Infamous game, let alone a VR game. While we're talking about superhuman games, a prototype VR game would actually be pretty sick. Though I'm not going to give it its own section because I've actually never played Prototype, and that's called LARPing. Also, maybe Sunset Overdrive VR? Jesus, just give us fucking Spider. Homecoming VR was a shitty 5-minute tech demo. Far From Home VR sucked and the web swinging was straight ass. Sony, you own Spider-Man. You own PlayStation. You have PSVR 2. Just mash them together and give PSVR 2 an actual game. Shit, get Insomniac to do it. They know what good web swinging is. Sir, Insomniac is currently working on Wolverine. Wolver, who put Spider-Man VR in my hands right now? Inject it into my bloodstream. I don't care if you slip a bit of Fent in there. Hell, it might make it more fun. A full Spider-Man VR game is something people have been begging for since the dawn of VR. We've had clones and games that feature good web swinging, but we are yet to see an official real Spider-Man VR game. You're telling me that Iron Man got a full official real VR game before Spider-Man? Iron Man VR was good, but Spider-Man just has so much more potential for badassery than Le Fly and Le Shoot. It's genuinely shocking we haven't gotten a true Spider-Man VR game similar to Arkham Shadows and Iron Man VR. With the right studio, we could even possibly have combat better than Arkham Shadows, and that game has near flawless combat, but Sony's just too pussy to do it. You can tell Sony doesn't fuck with VR nowadays just by looking at the PSVR 2 library. Spider-Man VR could be an amazing experience, from web swinging to combat, but the cowardice of Sony when it comes to interacting with anything VR related makes this game more and more unlikely to be developed as time passes. I really like Helldivers 2. It's probably one of the most fun co-op games out there right now. Unfortunately, we don't really have many good co-op VR games, and I think Helldivers 2 could work fantastically within VR. Going against hordes of the Terminids, the Automatons, and the Illuminates with 3 other VR players would genuinely go insanely hard. Spreading democracy by calling the 500 kg bomb stratagem and physically having to throw it would be really awesome. I just want to see a good co-op shooter with hordes of enemies be brought over to VR, so Left 4 Dead 2 VR would also be really cool to see. That would require Valve to make a game though instead of bumping the Steam Deck price by 40%. I can kinda see how the stratagems would be kinda hard to implement into VR, but I have faith they'd make it work. There is actually a VR game being developed that is clearly heavily inspired by Helldivers, called Guardians Planetfall. It does actually look quite promising and I'm very excited about it. Last time, I talked about how I'd love to see Metal Gear Solid 3 be brought over to VR, but in all honesty, I believe Dishonored would actually work better than MGS3. We've had quite a few VR games prove that magic works really well within the medium, like Blade and Sorcery for instance. And we've had games like Budget Cuts and the Espire series show that VR stealth has insane potential. We just need a truly fantastic stealth game to use that potential to its fullest. Dishonored 1 and 2 are widely considered some of the best stealth games of all time, and in my opinion, out of all the games I've mentioned here, this is truly the one. Dishonored would work perfectly in VR. All of the abilities, all of the weapons, even the smaller things like using the rewire tool would work amazingly. Maybe this is just insane bias because I'm a Dishonored superfan, but Dishonored, or even a game like Dishonored hitting VR platforms, I genuinely believe that would be a Batman Arkham Shadows level release. Unfortunately, with Arcane Austin, a branch of Arcane Studios that got shut down in 2024 after releasing Redfall, I fear that Arcane and Bethesda just wouldn't allow a VR game to be made, as it would just be too risky. VR isn't a dead platform, but it is struggling hard right now. Especially in the age of slop and everything being too expensive, I feel we do desperately need a new heavy hitter to get people truly talking about VR again. Another game like Half-Life Alyx and Batman Arkham Shadows. Something actually made with real passion to contrast the, let's be frank, horrific state VR storefronts are in right now. Big game studios are terrified of making VR games right now, and I can't lie and say I don't understand to a point because I do. VR is such a volatile platform. 1 second it could be absolutely booming, like the peak of VR from 2019 to 2022 where everyone was locked indoors and needed basically any form of social interaction, so millions got VR headsets to talk to their friends. And then the next second, there'll be a full VR drought. But I do feel that right now, we are slowly exiting the drought. With games like Little Nightmares VR, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles VR, and FNAF's Secret of the Mimic VR releasing recently with mostly positive reviews. There's so many people within the VR community doomer posting with zero optimism for the future. But we've got games that's released and is releasing soon to be excited for. No matter how bad things look for VR to you, the future, at least right now, is looking bright.